what kind of an echo chamber are you in to think this extreme about this subject? That anybody who was vocally against Kirk's unaliving, but doesn't say much about the Renee Good unaliving, is a bad person. When they are celebrating what happened to her.
This has gotta be the most tone-deaf reading of a text exchange that I've ever seen from you, Skyler. Do you not hear yourself? First, you read the post from Tony Rush that talked about people who did not speak about Renee Good. Then you read my comment that also explicitly talked about people who did not speak about Renee Good. And then you make it about people who celebrated Renee Good's death? For better or for worse, you ended up shifting the goalpost, Skyler. Before anyone else makes a mention about me taking this personally, damn right I am. Skyler is a longtime friend, yet in this video and even with the original post in question, he isn't acting very friendly. And Skyler, before you make any mention about how you didn't intend this comment or that comment to be an insult directed at me, well, I'm going to explain it to you how I take offense at some of them, but also recognize that I don't have the benefit of hindsight in making this video if and when you say I wasn't talking about you when I said that. First thing I want to address is, what the fuck is with this thumbnail, Skyler? You have the video titled as addressing me particularly, and you chose a meme of some old Trumpist as the thumbnail? Like, why didn't you use a picture of my Ransona next to the ICE logo or a picture of Renee Good instead of a picture of a Trumpist when you know that I'm factually not a Trumpist? I'm not saying that you're intentionally trying to frame me as a Trump worshiper or even as a casual Trump supporter, but still, it's a lazy and misleading thumbnail, and you should know better that there are some idiots who will take this to mean that the person you're addressing is a Trumpist when really he isn't.
So, I recently made a few posts on Facebook that have upset the Dark Conservatarian.
For the record, only one of them really upset me. The other one only just confused me, is all.
And I can't say I feel too bad about it.
I sincerely hope that the only reason why you say this, Skyler, is because you genuinely don't know what exactly my beef is with your one post, and not that you're just about ready to cut our friendship off for good or something.
You see, I have been a Trump critic from the beginning.
What the fuck does Trump and you being a critic of him have anything to do with me or even the broader issue at hand?
And from the moment he said, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, fucking TikTok and their stupid rules. The minute he said that, I immediately said, nope, I would never vote for this man, ever. I don't give a shit what he does. That kind of behavior is unbecoming.
I thought I'd just let that play out longer to emphasize how much of a non sequitur I think this point is. And as you'll see as we get further along in this video, at no point was Trump brought up in either of the two posts, nor either of my comments to his posts that sparked this scuffle with me and Skyler to begin with.
Every MAGA out there would not accept that kind of behavior from their daughter's boyfriend, but they would accept it from the guy that has the nuclear codes. It just shows it's a fucking cult.
That isn't really why Trump cultists are Trump cultists, but whatever.
Darkon got all bitchy at me because I shared a post from a guy named Tony Rush.
A friend of yours got upset because a post you shared implies that he's a bad person, and you call that bitchy?
The post said, if you were loud about Charlie Kirk's unaliving, but quiet about ICE unaliving a woman in cold blood, you're one of the bad guys. The Dark Conservatarian says in response to me, fuck you, Skyler. What kind of an echo chamber are you in to think this extreme about this subject? That anybody who was vocally against Kirk's unaliving, but doesn't say much about the Renee Good unaliving, is a bad person. When they are celebrating what happened to her.
This has gotta be the most tone-deaf reading of a text exchange that I've ever seen from you, Skyler. Do you not hear yourself? First, you read the post from Tony Rush that talked about people who did not speak about Renee Good. Then you read my comment that also explicitly talked about people who did not speak about Renee Good. And then you make it about people who celebrated Renee Good's death. For better or for worse, you ended up shifting the goalpost, Skyler. People who didn't speak about Renee Good's death are not the same as people who celebrated her death. I was not upset at you for calling people who celebrated Renee Good's death bad people. Didn't even mention them, didn't even have the context to talk about them because in the original Tony Rush post, the literal words he said didn't say anything about people who celebrated her death. No, what I was talking about and upset about was Tony Rush saying that people who were vocally against Charlie Kirk's assassination but did not say anything about the Renee Good shooting are bad people. And above all, upset at you for seemingly agreeing with that post by sharing it without any kind of disclaimer. Why? Because before I ever commented underneath your post, I was one of those guys, and you knew I was one of the people vocally against Charlie Kirk's assassination. Though, granted, I don't know how much of my social media feeds or otherwise you pay attention to know I didn't speak about Renee Good until that point, but still, I didn't. And this situation is like two friends hanging out with each other, one atheist and one Christian, and the Christian says atheists are bad people. And then the atheist says, fuck you, I'm not a bad person. And the Christian says, what? Why are you getting all bitchy?
After crying about Charlie Kirk more than his own bitch wife ever did.
What the fuck? What is with all this bitter vitriol over Erica Kirk? Did she insult you or a group you happen to fall under or something? This doesn't make any sense.
It kind of tells me all I need to know about them. Just saying.
So, just for context's sake, and to be fair, he says all I need to know about them, and not all I need to know about you or you people. So, possibility that he was never intentionally trying to attack me with that stupid post he shared, but still, I'll refer back to my Christian and atheist friend example I posed earlier, because I'm still catching stray bullets from a friend here.
Darkon continues, in my opinion, it was a clean pew-pew. Remember, it's TikTok and there's stupid rules.
More reason for me to never bother getting a TikTok. Closest thing for me will be YouTube Shorts.
Pity that it happened, but she practically clipped the guy with her car right beforehand.
Actually, I was originally downplaying what happened. She didn't just clip him, she full-on hit him with the corner of her car about where her headlight was at. And he shot her roughly at the same time he was hit, not the immediate second afterward.
Whereas Kirk was just plain pewed in cold blood for speaking his opinions, not equivalent.
I'm just gonna say it right now because he doesn't come back to this at any point later, but why didn't you in your video address the false equivalence part that I addressed of Tony Rush's post, Skyler? Comparing a straight up cold-blooded shot from afar because one guy didn't like the other guy's opinions on politics versus a much messier situation where at best both parties were scared for their lives.
Well, I don't know what video you saw.
The one that debunks the leftist narrative on this story before I even saw the post in question.
But the one I saw, she's clearly turning the car away from the guy.
Not near enough to avoid hitting him.
And he was so in fear for his life, and he was so in danger, he called her a fucking bitch right afterward.
Damn right he did. If a woman just hit me with her car, even clipped me with her side mirror, I'd call her a bitch too. Or an idiot at least. And truthfully, you would too, Skyler, as evidenced by the fact that you called Erica Kirk a bitch. So you don't get to virtue signal about people calling other people names in this case.
Pardon my language, Darkon, but that's just a bunch of horse shit.
Horse shit my ass. As you can clearly see from Officer Ross's point of view, he clearly got his leg hit by the corner of Renee's car. Could have even got partially ran over if he had worse footing. And from this camera POV, you can see even clearer Officer Ross getting smacked. And it's not like this engagement is totally without harm to Ross either, as it's reported that he suffered internal injuries after the day with Renee Good. Hard to tell if these injuries are actually from a previous engagement with a car hitting him and then they were just opened back up from Renee hitting him, or if Renee hitting him caused new ones rather belatedly, but still. And even if it was not intentional on Good's part to hit an ICE agent while making her get away, that doesn't clear her as innocent. There are still criminal charges for even accidentally hitting somebody with your car, you know? She still hit him. She did not turn away enough from Ross to avoid hitting him, nor even waited like 1 or 2 seconds more to let him get fully out of the way before quickly accelerating away. But even then, I'm not willing to rule out malice on Good's part. As shown in this freeze frame, she was looking directly at him, seeing that he was still in the way, almost with a giddiness in her eye as she's biting her lip. But I'm also not yet willing to rule out she was not malicious, but was just plain stupid at the same time, for the record. Maybe it can be argued that Ross could have handled the situation better, but that's only in hindsight really, and the heat of the moment is different and when the benefit of the doubt is more given. And ultimately, addressing the Tony Rush post once more, if there's anything that the huge debate over the Renee Good shooting has shown, is that it's a lot messier than the Charlie Kirk assassination, that comparing the two is absolutely retarded. And maybe that's why a lot of people who spoke out against the Kirk assassination haven't spoke out about the Good shooting, not because they're the bad guy.
Personally, I think that every ICE agent should be given no quarter. Now, let me define what I mean by no quarter so no one can use this against me. I mean in terms of if you know someone who's an ICE agent, tell them they're not welcome anywhere, whether it be in public or if they were a friend or a relative or a partner or whatever. If I had children and they were in ICE, sorry guys, my kids are dead to me. I would not tolerate or put up with them being in ICE.
Are you really so politic-brained that you're losing all ability to individualize people, Skyler? Somebody who's worked just as a desk clerk in an ICE office has nowhere near the same moral culpability as an ICE field agent who brutalizes a Mexican, just to put forth an extreme example.
And saying either you pick this family or you pick a paramilitary terrorist organization. What's it going to be?
I swear, the term terrorist has lost all meaning. ICE is not an independent political organization. It's a tool of the government that has been used to different extremes by Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden. Hard to call it terrorist when its agenda keeps on changing with the presidential administrations. And before anybody plays whataboutism with me with the fact that the Trump camp is calling Renee Good a terrorist, I think that's stupid too. It's not like there's any evidence to show that she had premeditated intent or plans to kill some ICE agents in the name of the political belief of open borders or something like that.
Then I made a post on the 10th, quote, "The dissolution of ICE is non-negotiable at this point." The Darkon basically says, and I'm going to summarize, he says he's confused about my current immigration beliefs. He says, "I recall you in a recent video saying you're against illegal immigration and mentioning how you don't like illegal immigrants taking advantage of our welfare system, but you're also seemingly against ICE deporting illegal immigrants. First of all, illegal immigrants cannot get access to the federal social safety net."
No, a good chunk of them do take federal welfare. About 47% on WIC and or SNAP at least, whether it's technically legal for them or not. Granted, it can be hard to delineate the differing stats between actual illegal immigrants and legal non-citizen residents for obvious reasons, but still, it's not like it's zero, Skyler. Not even close to zero.
Some states and cities are giving it to them.
Okay, is your problem with illegal immigrants that they're taking any welfare at all, no matter what level of government it's from, or just federal welfare? I don't think it's necessary yet for me to go back and listen to whatever video where you said you don't like illegals taking welfare. I just know that it was in one of your Charlie Kirk hate comment reading videos. But from what I recall, I don't think you differentiated right then between whether it's federal welfare or welfare in general that you don't want illegals taking. And I certainly didn't give any differentiation in my statement. So it feels right now like you're just being needlessly pedantic to earn brownie points, Skyler.
Gavin Newsom in California wanted to give Medi-Cal benefits to illegal immigrants, and now he's having to back off that because he wants to be president, and he is a slippery motherfucker and a Patrick Bateman wannabe.
If there's at least one thing I had to look forward to when we get our next Democrat president, and trust me, it will happen, Trumpists, is when Skyler focuses his ire on Democrats.
I have been consistently against illegal immigration. I have had people get pissy with me saying no one's illegal on stolen land, and I stopped listening.
I'm just gonna skip past the rest of this because it's just stuff I mostly agree with. Just know that in the next clip when he says they, he means illegal immigrants.
Even if they do pay taxes, because funny thing, ICE has been grabbing people using IRS records. And that's funny because a lot of the MAGAs say they don't pay taxes, and yet they do. And I'm not going to be pedantic and say, they pay sales tax when they buy something, but like actual income tax and property tax, turns out they are taxpayers, net taxpayers.
Okay, what's your source for that claim, Skyler, that illegal immigrants are net taxpayers? I hear this claim made a lot, especially on memes and general short posts on social media, but I barely, if ever, see anyone cite some actual numbers. They just mostly assert the claim is all. And you can say that also about the more simpleton Republican voters who are against illegal immigrants too, which, fair enough, but still, what's your source, Skyler?
As national conservatives like to mention, net taxpayers when they're talking about stripping civil liberties.
What the fuck were you talking about? That sounded like just a broken up, incomplete statement, and then you move on to say,
if you are for ICE deporting them, then isn't it evident?
Skyler misread what I said, so let me help. I actually said if you are for ICE deporting them, then it isn't evident.
Because you only seem to talk about the negative incidents regarding ICE and never about the stuff they do that you presumably do agree with. I agree with deporting illegal immigrants. I personally think that the sooner you're caught, the better. If you want to come to this country, yes, it should be legally. And here's the thing, Darkon, and to any leftist who might make a video in response, I want you to hear me clearly. I want immigration reform.
I mean, Theoretically, I do too, but I wonder sometimes if it's an actual technical reform that is needed, or if there's some other problem with the system outside of hard laws or regulations that causes immigration to be sometimes an overly long process. Some uppity or lazy paper pusher who needs firing, or something other.
I believe that if you're from Mexico or Canada or wherever on this earth and you are a peaceful, non-violent individual and you want to be a productive member of American society, I believe that it should go like this. You prove who you say you are. You pass a criminal background. You pass a civics test.
What about learning English? Should that be mandated for becoming a U.S. citizen too?
And then we just get you in a job training program after you take the oath of allegiance to the United States and help you find a place to live, and then that's it. You're an American citizen. It shouldn't take you 30 fucking years to go from starting out to the end.
Relating to the earlier point I made about reform, is there an actual hard law that says you must wait 30 years to be an American citizen if you had this condition or status relating to you, or is it just some other glitch in the system causing that length?
Some people are not going to wait that long, and I can't say I blame them.
Are you just saying that to show some amount of empathy to migrants in the waiting line, or is this some kind of excuse making for at least a certain type of illegal immigrants?
You know, as far as I'm concerned, ICE should be targeting just violent illegal immigrants.
You do know that other types of crimes, besides the act itself of illegally immigrating, can be committed by illegals that aren't necessarily violent too, right? From theft to fraud and other types of victimizing crimes that may not necessarily be violent. And on another note relating to Renee Good, I keep hearing that the illegal immigrant that Officer Ross and his team were trying to arrest was a domestic abuser. If true, that means that Renee Good tried intervening in the arrest of a violent illegal, even if she didn't know any better. But at the same time, I don't really know any better either, cause I can't seemingly find a source that confirms if that's true or not. No matter how I word my search for such a factoid, Google and DuckDuckGo don't seem to want to show me any articles specifically talking about who it was that Officer Ross was trying to arrest. Just articles talking about Ross's, I guess, criminal past and how other ICE detention agents are abusing inmates. Nothing about the attempted arrestee of the day that Renee Good was shot. It's almost like the search algorithm is trying to suppress such a factoid.
Anyone who disagrees with that is an idiot.
How am I an idiot, asshole, for wanting to deport illegally migrated thieves, fraudsters, and other non-violent criminals? I guess there's the possibility that after hearing the last few sound bites, you reformed your statement to say, okay, we can deport those types of illegals too, but still, at the moment of your recording, Skyler, you're just being an asshole, and not the fun type of asshole that I've normally known you to be. You need to be more careful of what you call a person an idiot for over stupid reasons, or else you end up insulting your friends too.
But ICE is out here grabbing people without any proof that they're illegally here. There is not a single reason for the illegal, racist deportation of legal, naturalized citizens and natural-born citizens.
The problem with what you just said there is that that's only happening a super minority of the time. As per according to ProPublica or OPB, there's not even been 200 cases of US citizens getting deported as of the releasing of this article in October of last year. And that's not even factoring in the fact that a good chunk of that number are actually arrests of citizens who have been alleged to assault an officer or otherwise, not because an ICE agent idiotically thought they were an illegal. I agree with the general sentiment of what you just said there, Skyler, about how citizens should not be deported, but the argument here isn't about whether that action is wrong or not. It's about ICE's legitimacy. And if one of the arguments for why ICE should be abolished is because they're deporting US citizens, well, I don't think that 170 number is near large enough to imply that's a good reason to be anti-ICE, especially in comparison to the 675,000 total deportee number that I've been generally hearing. And this ProPublica article isn't even a right-wing source. If you read it, it's pretty left-leaning in its commentary, and one could probably do a whole video on it alone. But if even a left-leaning source can't tell us that the number of US citizens being deported is even 1,000, then you know that number is tiny. Personally, I want to handle those cases and fix them with a scalpel, rather than take a sledgehammer to the organization as a whole when ICE is seemingly sticking to the boundaries of their job generally. That is, if we're working with the framework that illegal immigration specifically is wrong, because obviously if you think that illegal immigration is no biggie, not saying Skyler is of that mindset, then it obviously goes without saying that you'd want ICE abolished regardless of how many of those deportation cases are of US citizens or not.
So when these assholes say, come legally, but they're still snatching up people even as they're about to take the oath of allegiance to this country, or they're going to an immigration court to comply with what's going on, that should tell you it wasn't about immigration following the law. It was about skin color.
Okay, give me an example of any mainstream conservative cheering on specifically the deportation of migrants who were literally about to take the oath of allegiance to become a US citizen. And no, Nick Fuentes doesn't count. I'm sure that piece of shit is all for that and more. We've always known that for him, immigration has always been about skin color and not legal status.
You know, because a lot of these MAGAs, including this president, why don't they come from Europe? Why do they have to come from these shithole countries, as this president said?
And as far as the Trump example goes, without any further dissection, I'll give the benefit of the doubt that he's being racist with that quote for right now. But where's the example of him wanting just any brown migrant about to take the oath of citizenship to be deported anyway?
You know, I'm not saying every MAGA voter's racist. I'm saying that racism is not a deal breaker for them.
On the topic of explicitly racist policies, I understand that being more of a deal breaker. It would be a deal breaker for me. For example, advocacy of a white ethno-state, that's a deal breaker for me. But if, say, in the future that Thomas Massie, Justin Amash, or even Rand Paul were to run for president, and they were found to have made some insensitive generalization of, say, Asians, for example, would that really be a deal breaker for you on whether you'd support them or vote for them or not? I certainly hope that wouldn't be the case, and I know that this isn't applicable for you and Trump, even if he was not racist, because you probably disagree with him like 80% of the time if I had to guess. But on the other three people I mentioned, hypothetically, you agree with them about 90% of the time. But if one of them makes even one racist comment or even multiple racist comments, your support for them goes out the window. Policy agreement be damned.
And of course I'm going to talk about mainly the negative incidents involving ICE. There's just so many to pick from.
Well then don't be surprised when anyone accuses you of becoming a leftist or currently being a leftist. At least I'm paying the courtesy of asking you first what your beliefs are before I go asserting that you're a leftist. And just to be clear, I'm not saying don't talk about the negative incidents regarding ICE or any stuff that you genuinely disagree with them on, but depending on how broadly you're talking about the issue of ICE, it doesn't take much to say, I agree with deporting illegal immigrants and enforcing immigration law, but, and then continue on with the rest of your criticism about them. And more broadly speaking, as a right-winger who watches you, a self-proclaimed right-winger Skyler, who also wants to like your content, it sure would be nice if you uploaded some more videos tackling an issue from a right-wing perspective. But as of the last few months since taking this screen cap, out of 10 videos, only one of them was very clearly tackling an issue from the right. That being your most recent abortion video. The rest were tackling whatever issue from either a murky perspective or from an overall leftward perspective, with you throwing in maybe a tiny handful of right-wing talking points in some of them. Just a friendly suggestion, take it or leave it.
Whether it was Renee Good or any of the other people that were unalived in 2025 thanks to this president giving ICE more funding than the military budget of several other countries. In fact, ICE has more federal funding than any law enforcement agency in this country at $100 billion.
I don't have time to talk about every little subtopic relating to ICE, and I don't think I need to go on about their funding for right now. At least not that much. Do I have a general opinion about it? Well, we seem to be the #1 country for the biggest illegal immigrant population in the world right now, and so it makes some sense why funding would be so high for whatever organization is used to enforce immigration law and deport most to all the illegals. That's all I'll say for right now.
So the Dark Conservatarian asks me, and I'm going to try to hurry this up because I got less than 2 minutes left because I'm going to put this on TikTok and YouTube.
I can only imagine that if you do a response video to this video of mine, Skyler, that you'll only be able to put it on YouTube. Sorry for it being so long, but I'm trying to be thorough here.
Open borders, restricted borders. I favor restricted borders. I don't think the border wall is going to work when you can just take a saw and cut through it. Not even a $100 electric saw that can do it.
Honestly, the fact that whatever little bit of border wall that Trump did get made in his first term is only made up of really tall and skinny plates doesn't make sense to me. I thought he was gonna build an actual brick and mortar wall with some barbed wire on top and maybe only a few guards per mile patrolling it to prevent people from taking a jackhammer or whatever to it. That would work better against a $100 electrical saw, as you brought up. I'm just spitballing here. I'm not even a border wall stand like half of Trump voters were back in 2016, and I'm not sure how I feel on the idea of the border wall itself right now.
Deport illegal immigrants, 0 of them, or deport some or all of them. I'd say deport some, because it's more realistic than violating due process, snatching people up that wrongfully.
When I said all, Skyler, I was saying that with the obvious given implication that some will fall in between the cracks and that you won't be able to get literally every single last one illegal. Didn't even mention about due process being violated or whatever method is chosen in order to do so. I was talking about as many as can be reasonably found and caught. But since you did say some, does that mean if your ideal immigration law enforcement agency were to find the whereabouts of a person who overstayed their visa and is doing absolutely no effort to renew said visa, apply for a green card, even self-deport, or whatever they should be legally doing, you just let them go scot-free? And for the record, when I asked that question, I'm not talking about DACA residents or any other migrant who's been amnestied already. It's too late for them at this point, in my opinion, and I guess I'll throw in anchor babies too. Even though birthright citizenship, I am convinced, isn't actually a constitutional right, it still doesn't make much sense to me if the child of illegal immigrants was born in the US and has become an adult by the time of finding his parents that he gets deported as well. But if he was still underage, then and only then does he get deported with his illegally migrated parents. My beliefs on immigration abroad have changed since 2020, and I guess I should probably make a devoted video about that sometime.
And sending them to a country they have no connections to, like Rwanda in the UK or El Salvador from the United States.
I mostly agree. That seems stupid and never made sense to me that an illegal would get sent to a completely different country not of their origin. Though, if an illegal immigrant who committed some heinous crime, more than that of illegally immigrating, I'd shed no tears for them if they did get sent somewhere else not of their own origins. My pity would be more towards the country itself having to receive such vermin. Depending on the country, of course.
Who would do the job of deportation if not ICE? Hopefully an agency whose powers are severely restrained, because if you can't do your job without violating civil liberties, then you don't deserve to exist. Plain and simple.
This is what doesn't really make sense to me about people who want some level of immigration law enforcement but also want to abolish ICE. Why not reform them? It sounds like Skyler and people with similar opinions as him on this matter want there to be an ICE, just that it's not called ICE. Unless, of course, if you're just wholly for open borders or no borders. And I keep mentioning those types of people, but I don't even think those people truly exist. At least not as many as thought, because even a hipster anarcho-communist wouldn't want neo-Nazis or even regular milquetoast conservatives who he calls Nazis to enter, or migrate rather, into his commune for fear of them sabotaging said commune, killing a minority or whatever. So effectively, almost everybody wants an ICE, just that they don't want to call it immigration customs enforcement.
This reminds me of this argument you and I had about the police in 2020.
Except the difference here is that Renee Good wasn't a completely helpless victim who was actively and successfully subdued like George Floyd was. So there's the biggest difference between the two stories. A more equivalent story would be Alex Pretty, which I guess I never got to fully articulate it to you, but that particular shooting I'm completely against, for your and every other detractor's information, and am of the belief that those ICE agents were in the wrong, that Alex didn't do anything to deserve getting shot. I hear some other details surrounding that particular story that maybe recontextualizes some things, but for right now, that's my opinion. The ICE agents were in the wrong for shooting Pretty, but Officer Ross was not wrong for shooting Good in the moment.
And I am still willing to have that argument because I fucking love to argue. And if you do not agree with what I said in this video, you are more than welcome to challenge me to a debate, whether it be the DARCON, whenever that could happen.
To explain why you said whenever that'll be, I guess this is where I should come out and say that within the last few months, I've been way too busy with work and other stuff for making YouTube videos as consistently as I'd like. And even more so am I too busy to schedule and do a live stream with anybody right now. Sorry that I've neglected to tell you, my subscriber base, about that till now. It's also why it's taken me so long to make this response video to Skyler, now being a few months after he uploaded it.
Or if you just don't agree with anything I said in the video, I'll leave my email address, I'll leave my Twitter, whatever. Feel free to challenge me to a debate.
To clarify, he's giving an open invitation to debate anyone on the issue of immigration, not just me specifically. But even if I wasn't too busy to do such, I'd still want to get this response video out there before doing a debate, cause I think it's the only real way to get Skyler's attention on some of the stuff he said. And Skyler, ultimately, I don't really care about your beliefs on immigration. What made me angry initially to say fuck you is the fact that you shared that post that calls me and people like me a bad person. I didn't even really want to make this video. When I challenged you to make a video about your updated immigration beliefs, it was solely relating to the second post I commented under where I said I was confused as fuck, not the first one where I said fuck you. Personally, I would have much rather you just approach me and asked why it is that I said fuck you and we talked it out instead of making a video. But you made your public response video to me, so I made mine to yours. Hopefully you understand now why I'm mad, that I don't like getting insulted by friends even if it's unintentional and not exactly direct. If a friend happens to even insult a group I happen to fall under, I still fucking hate it. Be it because I was homeschooled in my childhood, am Christian, kind of conservative, libertarian, white, straight, male, whatever applies to me. It's also why I'm careful to insult groups as a whole, golden rule and all. I mean, for fuck's sake, I have a sister who's a leftist, thus is partly why I buck the left are pedophiles slogan. I'm not mad at you, Skyler, because you were calling Trumpists who celebrated Renee Good's death bad people, however many or little of them exist. I didn't even get that sort of message from the original Tony Rush post. I just hope that you're not mad at me because I'm not as anti-ICE as you or whatever. I don't want to lose you as a friend over a few political disagreements, but I also don't want to be seriously insulted by my own friends. That's what I'm mad about. Hopefully you get the message now that I've articulated it as best and as long-winded as I could. And hopefully you, my audience, have gotten some informational value out of this video. I can't imagine you getting too much entertainment value out of it, aside from maybe the gaming footage I have playing in the background, because this has been kind of serious and personal. And finally, hopefully, the next video will not be drama related like this. I am Zach the Dark Conservatarian, and I'll see you all later. Bye-bye.